Welcome back to another episode of Education Lockdown. I'm your host, Amir, and I want to apologize to all my subscribers for being gone for several months. Honestly, COVID threw a big wrench in my plans, the same way it threw a wrench in plans of millions of other people across the country. The important thing is I'm healthy. I'm hoping you're healthy and your family's healthy, and I'm coming back at you at least once a week with some more Education Lockdown, all right? Now, today's episode, we're going to talk about a little bit about why I chose to become an inner city school teacher. I'm not going to go in great detail about a lot of stories because I'm going to make videos about each of those stories. This is going to be a general overview, and the reason why I'm going to do this is because one of my new subscribers, shout out to Ulysses, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, my man, I'm sorry, coming out of Chicago, he left a great comment with several questions on one of my videos. I'm going to address all those questions, all right? First of all, I want to shout you out, my man. You told me in the comments that it's going to be your first year teaching in the Chicago public school system, and you're from Chicago, which is great. All right, so I want to salute you for that, man. You're doing something that a lot of people don't want to do because they're scared of the responsibility or they think it'll be overwhelming. But you're taking that stride, man. And no matter what happens, you're gonna be a better person for it. That's a fact. I can guarantee you that, man. No matter what happens in your experience in your first year, you'll be a better person. And your first year, it's gonna be busy. Your first year is going to be really busy, okay? And perhaps I should have named this video what to do in your first year, but I'll get more into that perhaps in my next video. But it's going to be your first year, my man. But since you said you're born and raised in Chicago, so you know what time it is, man. And you chose to do that for a reason. I salute you for that, man. I'm not going to tell you too much of what to expect because I could be completely wrong. Like, I don't know exactly what school you're going to go into, and I don't want to put stuff in your head that ain't true. I want you to go out there yourself, jump in the water yourself and handle it because I know you can. And anyone who tries to tell you that they know that what's best for you or this and that, listen to them. I'm not saying don't listen to them, but remember, man, it's your journey. Only you can go through that journey, my man, and it's going to be great no matter what. I guarantee you, and I can't wait to hear about it. Now, I want to get down to your questions that you left me because you left me several questions. One question with several different parts, and it kind of sums up why I became an inner city school teacher, right? So let's start it off. All right, the first thing, what's my personal journey? And honestly, man, like, I would be lying if I said that I always wanted to be a teacher, that I grew up wanting to be a teacher, that I finished college wanting to be a teacher. That really wasn't the case. I was currently in my mid-20s, I believe, mid to late 20s. I was unemployed. I had to be working at a call center. I just couldn't do that type of work anymore. I hated it. I was on unemployment for the first time ever and for a while, like 7 months, because I couldn't find work. My girlfriend at the time said, hey, why don't you go down to the local university, Towson University, because they're having a job fair, and just go check it out. I said, all right, so I got dressed up, put on my suit and tie, my little resume, and I went to the job fair. And I knew automatically that, man, this job fair sucks. Like, it was a bunch of stuff a bunch of corporations and computer stuff that I wasn't into. I was like, man, I'm leaving, right? On my way out, the very last table on my right-hand side, literally 5 feet from the exit door, was a table and had a big board, and it said, Sports for Kids. That's all it said. It said, Sports for Kids. So I looked it up. I was like, man, you know what? This seems pretty cool. The guy said, hey, all you're doing is pretty much, you're going to organize activities for kids to play. You're going to be in the inner city schools, and that's what it is. You're going to try to prevent bullying, and you're probably going to just do, activities with the kids. You're not going to be a teacher, but you're kind of like a camp counselor, but you work full-time at a school, though. Whatever school you're at, you work full-time, so on and so forth. I said, cool, so I did that. It was a non-profit organization. It was a cool place, and I did that for about 3 years. I did that. My first year, I was at a school on the west side of town, called North Bend. And that school was, I'm gonna make stories about that school because that's my first class I ever had, ever. My first day, my first class with an eighth grade class, and these guys were rough, and I'm so thankful looking back for them because that's how I got my bones, and they really made me a better teacher in the long run. Once I chose to become an official teacher, and I'll get into that. And I want to talk about the eighth grade class in a different video because there's some special kids in that class, for better and for worse, that I'm going to talk about. So I did that at that school. I was there for a year. After that, I went to the east side of town. I didn't have a choice. I was placed on the east side of town at Collington Square. I was there for 2 years, right? And for people who aren't from Baltimore, just so I can give you, I'm not being stereotypical, but just so I can give you an idea of the situation, it's like if you've seen The Wire, it's like in a neighborhood that looks like that. And I'm only saying that just so you can paint a picture in your head. I was there for 2 years, and that in itself, I've already made a couple of videos, I believe. Actually, I may haven't actually, but I'm going to make several videos about that school, no doubt. I was there for 2 years. At the end of my third year, I was like, you know what? I want to do something, the same thing, but kind of different, because I was getting paid hourly, like, 12, 13, 14 bucks, maybe 15 bucks, I think, at the end. And I wanted to be salary, and I was like, hey, I'm already pretty much a teacher. I'm doing like 5 classes a day. They're like 45-minute classes. We're doing all these activities. I might as well get my certification and be an official teacher so I can make more money. Simple as that. So after that, I went to school for about 1.5 years at Towson University, and I completed the physical education program, right? And I got my certification. I passed the praxis, thank God, on the second time, right? Praxis 2, I passed it on the first time because I had just came fresh out the certification program, so the info was real fresh in my mind. And then I became a teacher, and and how that happened is that I went to a fair in Baltimore City. I couldn't find any work. Everyone only had half-time positions at a school, which means you're only there for half the time, and the other half you'll be at another school. And I did not want to start my career off at 2 different schools at one time, so I held off. But again, on my way out of the job fair, I hear someone say, hey man, I heard you're applying for physical education. I'm literally outside the door leaving. I turn around. It's the vice principal. Long story short, he introduces me to the principal, who I've actually spoke about in my first video. Go back to my first video when I speak on corruption, all right? I met the lady, and it was a full-time job, and she told me straight up, it's a level 5 school. Like, these kids aren't quote-unquote normal kids. They're smaller classes, but these kids are off the chain. They've been arrested. They've been kicked out. Blah, blah, blah. Right? But me, coming from my background of having the 3 years of experience at quote-unquote inner city schools, and in my youth, this is part of my journey as well, I gotta say, I had trouble in school. I was one of the kids who was causing trouble. I was skipping class. I was doing things I shouldn't have done. I was a knucklehead, right? So I can kind of relate. So I said, you know what? I'll take it. And that's how I landed at my first, and winds up my only, school in Baltimore City as an official physical education teacher. Certified teacher. I was there for 3 years. And if you go back to my first video about corruption, I spoke a lot about that school. Even if you go back to my video about cockroaches in the water, I spoke a lot about that school. It was called Joseph, first it was called New Hope Academy, then they changed it back to its original name, Joseph Briscoe, which is the only level 5 school in Baltimore City. All right? And when I say level 5, I explained it earlier. It ain't a joke. It's pretty much juvenile detention, but they can go home at the end of the day. All right? And if you just go back to my other videos where I talked about this school, my first, I believe, few videos actually. I even talked about some students at this school already in previous videos, like Dion and others. All right? A couple of videos, so go back to those. So after that, man, I mean, that was my personal journey. And then it ended with me getting hurt on the job. I was breaking up a fight. I got hurt on the job. And honestly, my heart and soul told me it was a good time to walk away for reasons that I've already explained in my previous videos. It was just time. And here we are now. I'm making Education Lockdown. I'm trying to spread as much knowledge about the situation as I can, bring awareness to it. And again, I apologize for being gone for months. I wasted a lot of time. But COVID things were just crazy. Things were crazy. All right. Now, the next question he asked me, question 2, was my experiences, which I kind of already talked about, and I'll talk about more in other videos. I can say that my experiences, man, won't be the same as yours. But you're going to Chicago. You're in Chicago, so you know what time it is, man. Depending on your school, you can have a lot of the same situations, because you don't have to be at a level 5 school, especially in 2020, to deal with a lot of behavioral problems, a lot of admin problems, a lot of corruption. That's a public school inner city thing, unfortunately. That's what it is. So you're going to Chicago, for example, my man, you know what time it is, man. And so I can't really, I don't want to influence you too much with my experience, my personal experiences, you know. It was a roller coaster. Things that changed my life for better and for worse. Things that opened my eyes, the things I wanted to see, and a lot of things I didn't want to see. A lot of things I wish I never saw, as far as what you know, about kids, what they told me, what they've been through, losing them either to jail or to the grave. And I'm going to talk about that a lot in different videos, and I have already, specifically losing them to jail. I've talked about that several times already in separate videos. And it's, I mean, you know, and so there's a lot of like joy and there's a lot of heartbreak, at least when you're in certain environments. Now, I know if you're in some suburban school, that's cool too, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, I salute you, but you may not understand what I'm talking about, and I get it. You know, if you've seen season 4 of The Wire, when they're in school, it's kind of like that. But obviously, that's a TV show. You can't really connect with that, but so much. And I'm sure even in your suburban school, you have your issues as well, right? I mean, every school has its issues. So yeah, man. The next question 3, he pretty much asked me what mentors I had. Do I have any mentors? Did I have mentors? Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of had to find my mentors. I mean, my first situation, when I was in a nonprofit, I had a person who come check up on me. Someone like, so I did have a mentor, quote unquote, and they were very friendly. Actually, they were very helpful. When I went to the Baltimore, when I was officially a teacher, I had to pretty much find my own mentor, which I really didn't, to be honest with you, because a lot of people were in my situation as well, and there were older staff members who I spoke to and consoled with, but I wouldn't really call anyone really a mentor, and perhaps I needed one. I should have had one. I'm not blaming the city for not. I mean, I believe there was a service where maybe I could have gotten one, but one wasn't assigned to me, and honestly, I didn't go after one. But again, man, like, if you feel like you need one, man, you do that, because at the end of the day, your first couple years are important. Your first couple years of teaching are important. Your first year, you just figure out what's what, you know, and you want to build from that, you know. So if you need a mentor to start off with, my man, get a mentor. If they offer you one, take him or her. If they're cool, stay with them. If they're not, don't feel like you need to follow their advice, because they can lead you down the wrong way sometimes. Follow your heart, follow your gut, follow your instincts. When you work with kids, man, it's like a calling. You know what I'm saying? You're doing that for a reason. People aren't lined up to work in Chicago school systems, man, like you. They're not like, oh, we're all going to go work in Chicago school systems, deal with those quote-unquote crazy kids. But you're doing that, man, so I salute you, all right? So as far as mentors, man, if you need one, if they offer you one, take it. Always take it. If he ain't a good one, switch him or lose him. Simple as that. If you think you're cool without one, you want to go off your experiences, hey, man, that's cool too. But I'm sure in school they probably taught you a lot of what you need to know as far as putting a lesson plan together. Now you just got to implement your plan. And remember, it's about the kids. And I'll go more into that later as well. The fourth and final question Ulysses asked me, man, and again, hopefully I didn't get your name wrong, my man. Perspective change. How has my perspective changed throughout my journey, I guess, right? And the short answer to that is, man, like I mentioned earlier, it changed my perspective a lot, for the better and for the worse. You know, I learned things that made me believe that there's more hope out there, and I've saw things that made me think that, man, we have a long way to go. You know, that's almost with any career in education or in some sort of art. Your journey, man, it's gonna change you. You know, especially if you're in the Chicago public school system, like you said you're going to. It's going to change you for the better and for, I mean, I'm not going to say for the worse, you know, or for the better. It's just going to change you. You know, all your experiences change who you are. And specifically, when you go into this situation, again, I don't know what side of town you're on or what your demographics are, but I know Chicago's a big city and they have a big Latin population. You know, so I'm not sure, you know, but I know no matter what the population is, if you're in a certain situation in the school, if it's quote-unquote inner city school, if more than 50%, more than 75%, 85% of the school is on free lunch, you know, if you're in a poverty-stricken type of environment, it's going to change you, you know, and not for the better or for the worse. It's just going to change you, you know, and that's, in my opinion, that's a good thing, because if you get into a career and it doesn't change you at all, that's pretty boring, you know, you got nothing to talk about. So you're going to have a lot to talk about as far as advice. And remember earlier you asked me about a mentor. You're gonna be a mentor real quick, my man. If you go to Chicago, if you go to the Chicago public school system, if you're in Baltimore like me, other places, you're gonna become a mentor real fast. If you make it past your first year and you still want to come back, you're already like ahead of so many people. Your experiences are gonna be so immense in your first month, your first day, especially in places like Chicago that deal with a lot of trauma outside the classroom. Now, I'm not sure which of my videos, I know the video you saw, but I don't know how many of my videos you have seen. But if you go through my videos, I don't have too many, but I'm building that catalog. The ones I have already, talk about that a lot. What to do, what not to do. And, your perspective has a lot to do, will have a lot to do with how you act on the job. I mean, your experiences. So, I salute you again, man. And again, I appreciate anyone who's tuning in. Please, man, if y'all like this, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. And I'm coming at y'all at least once a week with stories about injustice, stories about crazy situations in schools, including teachers, admin, students, and situations that I've been in, and as far as my students and my experiences. And I hope I've answered most of your questions properly. If you have any other questions, my man, leave them below. If anyone has any questions, leave a comment. I got you. I'll answer right back. And again, I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Education Lockdown.